All right, so let's go ahead and do it. John, why don't you go ahead and introduce, I'll introduce Sean.
Sure. We have a friend, Sean. Sean is a professor at Yale Law School, and he is one of the smartest people I have ever encountered in my life. Sean and I worked together at a tech startup over the last several years, and he went into business for himself doing tech development that I don't even understand. He has shown me how to use a lot of it, and man, there's something to this. And so we talked briefly, and actually Ted and I were talking about this before we started the segment, about security. You know, you go overseas and you come back from overseas and you enter the US at one of the airports and they say, give me your cell phone, give me your laptop, your iPad. And the courts have ruled that you've got to turn it over and you've got to open it up with whatever, your thumbprint, your eye, whatever. Well, there's a way to get around that. Now, Tucker Carlson on his show has been promoting this this phone. It's actually quite expensive. It's like $1,200. And Sean and I were talking about it a couple of weeks ago. It's not all it's cracked up to be. I was going to spend the $1,200 just for peace of mind. And Sean talked me out of it because you don't get peace of mind. They can still get in it. It's cheap. It's a piece of junk. And Sean has developed some technology that I think everybody ought to know about. So Sean, welcome to the show. Sean O'Brien joins us from Yale.
Thank you so much, John.
Good to see you, man.
Incredible intro as always, and just incredible to get that kind of kudos from you. And thank you so much, Ted, for having me as well. Just to give a bit more about my background and sort of get into the details here, the nitty gritty. So yes, I am an associate research scholar and I teach cybersecurity at Yale Law School, a bunch of other places as well. I also founded an initiative called Yale Privacy Lab, which some folks may be familiar with. And we basically train people how to protect themselves online. We also look into different types of malware and spyware, and specifically we focus on mobile devices. So therefore, that's where the background sort of comes as far as caring about the device that you have in your pocket and are traveling with, right? So outside of teaching, you know, I build private and secure technology. It's all open source technology, so it's all auditable. And we try to make sure that we are living up to our word, right? We really, really care about making sure we're delivering folks what we're promising. So that's if you're in a high risk situation or if you're hanging out on the couch or whatever you're up to, you deserve privacy, right? And I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have strong opinions on that front as well. So Ted, John, and I, we're working together on a new project called Ivy Cyber, IVY Cyber, CYBER.com. And we have some really, really bold ambitions for that. Basically, it's an umbrella for a number of different initiatives that Ted, John, and I have been working on. It's going to bring in the software projects, the secure software and the privacy respecting software that I've been working on with a small but dedicated international team, as well as the educational projects John is going to be driving, and we're going to talk about one of those today. And then also an exciting new media initiative, and that'll be driven very much by Ted and with his editorial vision, and that'll include podcasts and articles and hopefully some really awesome stuff. I intend to contribute some research into malware and spyware, the kinds of things I do at Privacy Lab. So for those of you who are interested in getting more of us, there will be a lot more of us. So that's great. So basically, we've been working on awesome stuff. We've contributing in different ways. That united initiative allows us to sort of bring that energy together, pool our resources rather than sort of working, you know, separately in our own backyards. We can bring all that stuff together. So we'll be announcing a wide variety of stuff this month, a wide variety of projects, starting with seminars with John, exclusive seminars, and also secure hardware and privacy protecting software, which John alluded to. And I've got a little preview of that here. This is the little tablet device, and I'll keep it mysterious like a big black slab. But basically, we're going to take this to Spain, John and I, to a tech summit conference at the end of the month. And we're going to be basically live blogging our experiences traveling with the device. So that certainly is something that a lot of folks are asking me about, something I care deeply about, crossing borders, being able to, wipe your data from the device you're handling, but have it in a trusted place that's not owned by an Amazon, by a Google, by, a Dropbox, right? By the big tech intermediaries. It's a huge, huge issue. So that's going to be awesome, but we'll get into that, I think, a little later in the month, and there'll be a lot coming out about that. To kick off this new Ivy Cyber initiative, we're going to be delivering those exclusive online seminars, and we're calling those the CIA POV. Appropriately enough. And they're going to be based on a number of things that John has written. And if these go well, and we expect them to, we're working on a curriculum that we're going to broaden everything out into a larger sort of multi-week curriculum where you can sort of get access to the amazing knowledge that John has. And then also we're going to steep it in real world examples and talk about the technological aspects of that.
Sean, we have a question from a viewer. When does the beta version come out?
The beta version of the software. So if you go onto ivycyber.com now, you can sign up for what we're calling early access. And then you can get a subscription, which will kick in October. However, we're free and open source software folks, right? We really, really believe on everybody having access to our stuff now. You actually can go out to privacysafe.app. Ted, if you could type that into the chat for everybody, that'd be great.
I'm doing that now.
Privacysafe.app, or just go to ivycyber.com and you will find links to the free versions of the app for right now. You can download it, you can run it, you can play around with it. Our team dog foods it, so to speak, right? We make sure that we're using our stuff. We also pushed out, that's terrible. We delivered and deployed really awesome free web apps this month. So if you go, for example, to privacysafe.locker, you can see a really good example of the kinds of concepts we are going to be delivering to the desktop. At Privacy Safe Locker, for example, if you upload, let's say, a PDF document that you need to share with a friend, it actually encrypts that document with a encryption key that's completely on your browser side, on your client side. So the server doesn't know it, okay? It's all with you. The keys are with you, right? And on the server end, it's completely scrambled, just encrypted bits. Now you can share that link with a friend. Even if it's sort of a dodgy channel, right? You can send it in an email and have the confidence that that link is going to self-destruct after 24 hours. So it allows you to share things that you may just want to temporarily let someone know about. Not the most sensitive stuff in the world. I wouldn't say whistleblow with this stuff, please don't. But there are some other tools we can talk about in that context too. But you could send, for example, I don't know, a business document that you don't want to just attach to an email because it'll live in that email inbox forever, right? Or you could attach some document that you just, for whatever reason, you don't want to persist out there, right? Maybe you're sharing a book, right? A textbook or something like that with a friend. And you can share short videos as well and notes, memos. So potentially, this solves the problem of first contact, which is a big issue. Yeah.
Question: Does it clear your data if seized, or does it just lock up the device?
So there's a few different things we're talking about at once here. If we're talking about the tablet, and I think we should do a deeper dive into the tablet. Basically, the tablet has a secure operating system on it. It's full disk encrypted. And the apps the Privacy Safe apps on the tablet also keep your data encrypted, but synced optionally to a server. So you could basically hand it off to the feds and say, here, have fun, right? You can wipe the whole thing. You can have the assurance that what you're working on is actually synced in a fully encrypted way so that you can get it later, right? If you use those apps now, if you were to go out and grab those apps now and run them on your machine, on your device, it's also storing the files and communication. It's a chat app. It does video chat. It does storage. It's storing it as encrypted bits on your hard drive. So even if you're using it on a device that is not as trustworthy as it should be, you have the confidence of knowing that your communications inside of the apps are scrambled, so to speak, and scrambled in such a way that if you log out of Privacy Safe, log out of the applications, and somebody notices that you were using the thing, they won't be able to do anything with that data, right? It's just scrambled bits. So that's that one thing. The web applications are a little different. You play around with those on your own. There's some good explainers out there on the web as well. And please, please, please reach out to me. If you're interested in this sort of stuff, I'm happy to be a resource, and we'll be publishing a lot more around it.
We're being asked about the OS. It's Linux, yeah? And
yes, of course, it's Linux.
Yeah. Please explain the of course for people who don't
that's
know.
important.
Sure. So I'm a big open source guy, free and open source software. I've been working with, for example, Linux-based operating systems for a little over 20 years now. It's extremely important that our software is able to be vetted and is published publicly so that we know that there's no backdoors in it, for example, right? But also, software improves tremendously if you have it published and there's so-called a lot of eyeballs on it, right? If a lot of people care about a piece of software, they're actively using it, and folks are looking at the source code and sharing it, then the software improves. It gets better and better and better. So this thing called Linux and open source, right, basically took over the world of software in the last 20 years. And it actually runs on all kinds of things that you don't know it runs on, right? And a lot of those things have layers on top of them, which unfortunately are locked down, proprietary, and often insecure. So, for example, an Android phone is based on Linux, but it has a bunch of googly crap on top of it that spies on you, right? But there are ways to take Android, strip it way down, take all that googly stuff out, and then run it on the same hardware, and then not have that surveillance problem. What our tablet does is it has a custom, well-vetted, secure version of a popular Linux operating system. We're calling it Privacy Safe OS. We're making sure we're balancing sort of security and serious, high-risk concerns with making sure it's usable, right? So it does have a web browser. It does have a word processor on there. And, you can, for example, open presentations and so on and so forth. But it's shipping with our apps, which are really, really locked down, which are zero knowledge and have very strong encryption. Those privacy safe apps, if you communicate with those, share with those, you get that extra assurance on top of having an operating system that you can trust, basically.
Quick question also, and I really do love this question from Nick. Can you, let's say you have your tablet, you're coming into an unfriendly airport, let's call that airport JFK, and you're about to be taken to a back room, so you nuke your tablet so the bad guys at BCE can't get into it. Is your data gone forever and ever, or is it backed up anywhere, like in a cloud or something else?
So these are exactly the use cases we're working on. And that's partially from my own experience. I've done quite a bit of international travel. I do get the triple S for going into secondary on my pass often. I know all about it, of course. And we'll see what happens when we go to Spain. That's part of the reason we're sort of doing this, right? We want to prove by doing. So we are building in panic buttons, basically. We're building in functionality that will try to sync and back up as quickly as possible and then wipe the device. Of course.
That's a slow process, right? I mean, you're, especially in an airport where everybody's competing for bandwidth on LTE or whatever. I mean, I'm sure we've all had the experience of trying to just make a phone call, and it was slow as hell.
So the two things we're doing to try to confront that, first off, it's a slow process if you're not consistently backing up, right?
Right.
So if your most recent data from the last couple of hours, if that's all you're worrying about, it's not as big of a deal, right? But the second part of it is we're actually working on bundling the device with a hard drive, a small hard drive, or a USB key with relatively large storage, which can be challenging, of course. And then having that basically sync a backup and be full disk encrypted, which is totally something you can do. Now, you still have the issue if somebody takes that USB key or that hard drive and tosses it in the trash, you've lost the data. So we can't work magic, or I'll put it this way, maybe we can do magic, but we can't work miracles.
So frequent, yeah. So let's just say like you backed up before you got on the plane, but what you worked on while you were on the plane might be toast.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. Right. That's all right.
And that's the reason we're kind of also thinking about education and training alongside this. There are a lot of folks out there who have thought about these problems, who have delivered, with reasonable success, different versions of secure or semi-secure hardware, semi-secure software. But the main sticking point is that training piece. I kind of find that these conversations happen between quote unquote normal people, but we don't see a lot of it online. We don't see a lot of people going, oh man, I had this happen to me when I went through the border. If only I could have done this, right? If only I could have just backed up the photos that I took at the beach before I hopped on the plane. What we're going to recommend, of course, is that you try to travel with a device that's as blank as possible. And I think through going through this process together, John and I are going to have a very interesting experience. I mean, we'll see what happens going through the airports. But I know John has a tendency to get harassed for obvious reasons.
I was strip searched last time I flew to Iceland, and I'm going to Iceland in a couple of days again.
Just because you're cute.
I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah, that's what it is.
It's if you quit dressing like a slut,
Oh, it's just, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have strip searched him when he was up here at Yale. So yeah, I mean, we'll do our best to provide real, tangible, serious, real-world advice based on our own experiences. I'm going to be documenting that. I think it's going to be fun in some ways. It's going to make an experience which is harrowing and terrible. Hopefully, something that can be useful. And from sort of an engineering standpoint, we can't solve all of our problems with technical solutions, but I think a combination of technical solutions that are strong, that can get into people's hands at a reasonable price also, like don't cost them, thousands and thousands of dollars. And also that training piece, that education piece. If we can do that, I think a lot of people and organizations and certainly activists would be a lot stronger. So that's what we're going to be working on. I don't want to get too much more into the hardware. Please reach out to me. I think Ted and John and I will.
Let's talk about the software a little bit if you have time. Yeah.
Sure. So the software is, again, open source, and it's based on a set of protocols we've been working on with IEEE, which is a big standards organization. We're not yet shepherding it through the standardization process because that takes an enormous amount of time and energy and cash. But we are working on it in the standards groups from those sort of preliminary phases in the IEEE SA Open. And those standards, again, not only are they open, but they're strong, right? They use very strong encryption to basically federate between different users. So, for example, you can actually set up a piece of privacy-safe infrastructure, a server, let's say, with your domain, let's say, for your organization, and then tie it to our apps.
Yes.
So you don't have to use our syncing service, right? We're going to have our syncing service. We expect most folks who download the app are going to use it, but you can set up inside your own organization your own infrastructure. And in fact, of course, we'll help you do that. So we're trying to think about solving some of the issues that we saw come to the fore with the so-called signal gate situation. Everybody's working from home. Everybody's BYOD, right? Bringing their own disk or bringing their own device. And then we're all just using this hodgepodge of tools, right? Signal and these other things. And you don't even know if the person using Signal on the other end is using an approved version of Signal or the real quote unquote version of Signal, or as it turns out, Texas was using a dodgy fork of signal that was made by an Israeli firm and had all kinds of issues. So,
or if you're using it with a BBC cameraman right behind your phone.
That's right.
Well, there you go.
The
right,
privacy,
that's the operational.
That privacy is not that totally encrypted as you would want.
Yeah. So everybody's got this problem. Like if I start an org, right? How do we communicate with each other? How do we have a nice, simple suite of a communication suite that we can trust? How do we tie to our access controls, to our infrastructure? That's what we really want to do with that privacy safe suite. And you can check it out at privacysafe.app. We'll have some more materials about the business context soon. We expect that organizations, not just small teams of activists, but even large organizations, are going to be quite interested in solving this dilemma. The other thing is, of course, most attacks are coming through via email, right? Still around 90% of attacks come through phishing through email, ransomware through email, et cetera, et cetera. So having solutions that reduce your so-called attack surface, right, from email are really important. And one of the apps we have, which is basically like the chat app, but an email-like interface instead. It looks like a real email inbox, but uses strong encryption, which email doesn't use. It's not by default. That inbox app, we're really excited about. We want folks to communicate with the other folks inside their organization, or potentially other organizations using the same application, using that email inbox interface, right? And then being able to also still send normal emails to the outside world. And we just mark them differently, right? We say these ones are strongly encrypted. This is between me, Ted, and John, this chain, strongly encrypted with our privacy safe inbox, right? Our privacy safe mail. But to the outside world, we send an email. Okay, now it's not strongly encrypted. And just understanding that too changes sort of your operational security posture, what you
Makes
share,
total
when
sense.
you share it. Yeah.
Makes total sense. This is, I think, super important. People hear us talking about things like Linux that most Americans, if they do use it, but they don't know. Is this something, I know the answer to this, but talk about the interface. Is this like intuitive, or do people need a degree in computer science from Yale in order to be able to use it?
No. It's extremely simple, the software. I think the question may also be asking about the seminars and the classes, so I'll try to answer both of those things. I see myself as an educator primarily. I've spent my entire life training folks since not my entire life, since I was a teen working with computers, how to use computers. And it's really important to me to make sure that so-called mainstream or normal folks can use what I build, what we teach. So we really do, I think, have a good way of communicating that. I'm teaching all the time at different institutions. I go to public libraries and do seminars and so on and so forth. And we're able to not only use the applications I'm talking to you about, but also, John was just up here for a workshop that we did at a public space in New Haven. And it was great. And also it was not hard to get the message across. John has a way, of course, of imparting his stories without getting into too much, insider stuff. So for the folks, I think, who want insider, CIA, lingo and so on.
I do.
Yeah, there'll be enough of that, but they'll be able to also hook into those ideas. And the same thing with the techniul, right? We want to make sure, like somebody asked us about Linux, that we can answer that question, right? And it also demonstrates that we know what we're doing, which we do. But we also, we never want to start there. So John, why don't you tell us a little bit about the CIA POV workshops, what we're going to be offering there, and then we can just sort of get into that plan, and then I think we can get back into the questions.
Yeah, several years ago, at the start of COVID, Skyhorse Publishing commissioned me to write a series of books. I wrote one to start things off called The CIA Insider's Guide to the Iran Crisis. And then they wanted another three: The CIA Insider's Guide to Surveillance and Surveillance Detection, The CIA Insider's Guide to Lying and Lie Detection, and The CIA Insider's Guide to Disappearing and Living Off the Grid. And so, to make a long story short, you and I decided that it might be helpful to do these books as seminars so that people could ask questions while we're in the midst of it, in a chat on the side like we have right here, and we could make the presentation specific to the issues and concerns that people have. So we're gonna do the first one soon, the CIA Insider's Guide to Surveillance and Surveillance Detection, and we're going to schedule it so that people can essentially choose when they want to hear it, and that's going to come up very soon.
Yeah, so I think you can see my screen, right, Ted? Or no?
Let's see. Yeah, let me add that. See if I can do that.
Great.
Okay, here we go.
So if you go out to ivycyber.com button, you'll see what John's talking about. Shows his experience here. I mean, he's such a humble person, but not only was he at a high-ranking, he was a high-ranking counterterrorism official. He was there for years at the CIA. I mean, you don't get to that point without being there for years, of course. He did a lot of work in intelligence and operations after that, some work in the private sector as well. But he just has all this experience on both sides of the wire, as I've been calling it, and the perspective of seeing now how things have developed and sort of being deeply involved in movements and speech and all these other issues that Ted and John talked about at the top of the show and the top of every show, right? So that to me is very priceless. If you click this big orange button, you'll see we have an introductory, about $200, a little less, for the seminar to get one seat, but exclusive access to this small group seminar, where you're not only going to learn from John, you'll be able to do Q&A as well. So just like you're asking questions now in this room, of course, but face-to-face potentially, you'll be able to talk to John, and you'll be able to do it in a live teleconferencing environment, video conferencing environment that I set up, which doesn't spy on you. And that environment will allow us to basically not only teach, but hopefully have a little bit of community building as well, where like-minded folks who signed up for this thing, right, you'll be able to keep in touch with them if you choose to, and you'll be able to basically stay up on everything else that we're releasing as time goes on. So if you do choose, of course, to reserve a seat for this seminar, we're going to release a schedule. John's a busy guy. He's all over the place. We're going to these conferences and stuff. It's most likely going to start in mid-July. And we're going to do these 90-minute sessions. And partially, we're going to be learning along with you, just like I'm learning now, the issues that you care about and what you want to hear. We'll be able to adapt also, obviously, with the current news, just like this show does. And basically, we're going to keep this going as long as folks are interested in it, as long as we have material to teach. What we don't want to do is do the Coursera, massive online, whatever, shove you in something. No. We want to make sure it has that personal touch. And of course, John will be providing that. So if you sign up for this, basically, you'll get your ticket. We'll keep in touch with you. We'll say, hey, here's the dates. Then you're going to go out to the website again. You're going to pick the dates. You're going to basically pick your seat, so to speak. And then you'll just go out to a link and hang out with us. And it should be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it a lot. And if any of you know me, you know that I sometimes have trouble stopping once I start talking. So, 90 minutes is a suggestion, I think.
Yeah. I didn't want to put you on the hook for more than that, but I could have put, 260. Yeah. And
so bring coffee.
And the exciting part, at least for me, I've done these kinds of things before for a number of different programs. We actually had a similar type of thing for Oxford University, cybersecurity for business leaders, where basically we brought in experts from MIT and other places to be able to impart their knowledge and so on with these almost like fireside chat kind of things. So we're going to be learning, but also getting in early means not only do you get a good introductory price, but you're going to see and contribute to the building of this thing, right? Instead of coming in later and getting something which is sort of, I don't know, more dedicated to one specific topic, we'll be able to go, I think, a little more orthogonally into a number of different places. So that's going to be part of the fun, being able to ask questions, being able to spitball, basically. So.
Awesome. It's going to be fun. I'm looking
Sounds
forward
great.
to it very much.
Yep.
Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody else out there, thank you so much for joining us here on DeProgram. We hope you consider yourself totally and thoroughly deprogrammed, but we'll be back to pick up the pieces on Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Ted Rall. That's John Kiriakou. Sean O'Brien from Yale University. Thank you so much for joining us. And goodbye, everyone. See you next week.